Have you started looking through all the end of the year lists that have been coming out?
I looked at the Rough Trade one, where they pulled a very illegal move and said their number 4 was both the Geese album and the Cameron Winter album from last year, which is
Cameron
fine.
album came out in 2024. It did. He's not eligible for these lists.
I know, but it also, I feel like, is even if it had, coward's move to just be like, no, both of these are number 4. Like, no, one of those is better than the other. Tell me which one it is.
But so I agree. Yes, I definitely agree when it's a side project and the band. And I think I actually did this, was I put Folklore and Evermore on the same slot on my list because it was the same artist releasing 2 records in one year. But even then, that is kind of cheating.
That feels less egregious to me than 2 different projects.
I just hate that all these lists come out on December 1st, which means they were locked mid-November. And sometimes a great record comes out in December and you have to live with not putting that on your list.
Right, yeah.
Unless you do what Chorus does and wait to publish your list until January 3rd. Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music and our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Troy Sennett.
And I'm Matt Kistler.
And we are continuing our sort of addendum to our Bright Eyes series with Conor Oberst's side projects, collaborative projects that have only released 1 album. And this time we are talking about Better Oblivion Community Center, his collaboration project with Phoebe Bridgers. Their sole album, a self-titled record, came out on January 24th, 2019 on Dead Oceans, produced by regular Bright Eyes collaborator Andy Lamaster, mixed by John Congleton. And this record is another interesting one, sort of in both Conor Oberst and Phoebe Bridgers' career trajectories, and is generally just, I think, a very, very good record, especially going back to it this week for the first time in a while. But Matt, you were, I think, on top of this album way more than I was when it came out. Tell me about your feelings on it in 2019.
I loved this album in 2019. I went to the tour. I was all over this shit. I wasn't quite on the level of I don't think I'd bought anything from Dead Oceans directly, which is, I assume, how you got the brochures that were used to advertise this record before anything about it was announced. This was a thing that I actually didn't know existed until I started doing research late last week. But yeah, when the actual news of this band broke, I was just immediately like, all right, I'm pre-ordering this album.
Fully in.
I'm fully in. I will follow whatever this band does. And it was a very rewarding experience because I have a lot of fondness for this record, and it was only reinforced over giving it a few closer listens in this last week. I imagine we're going to do quite a bit of contrasting this with the Monsters of Folk record, but I feel like everything that felt maybe not quite there with Monsters of Folk, everyone's just kind of firing on all cylinders on this record. And that's kind of how I felt, back in the day too. And I don't think I recognized exactly what it was that was making it click for me, but I think kind of overall, what strikes me about this band is just like how much it is a melding of the ways in which Conor and Phoebe do things well in their own, solo efforts or band efforts.
I think it's they bring out the most interesting elements of each other's writing styles and performance styles. And whether this was a conscious effort or not, they managed to temper their worst impulses of each other. If that makes sense. I think that Conor's records, the Bright Eyes and solo, are prone to being long-winded and kind of, can get a little bit lost in the production elements because obviously he's got other band members who are more interested in the production stuff. And they can take these kind of long detours with slower songs that aren't that interesting a lot of the times, and and you end up with at least me as a fan thinking like, well, I love 3/4 of this record and would maybe cut 10 minutes out of it somewhere. And whereas in Phoebe's records, I think while she's an incredible songwriter, has an incredible voice, I think both of her albums can start to feel a little bit one note after a while. And I really like when she rocks. She's very capable of that, and you hear a lot of that on this album. And I just feel like Conor. I feel like they kind of encourage. I think they both wanted to do something that was not a sort of acoustic folk thing. You know, just different than what they do on their own for obvious reasons. But the directions that they take on this, and sort of the stated idea, which is like, well, this isn't going to be a quote unquote duets record. We're both basically going to be singing for the whole time, and we're gonna play with a band, and it's gonna be loud and it's gonna be different. It makes for a really concise, really exciting album pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, something that really stood out to me in some of the interviews that I was looking over and watching was how they kind of talk about how their writing styles and like kind of propensities complement each other in a way such that like literally it gets mentioned in in an interview where Conor's like, yeah, like, I probably need somebody to like edit my stuff down sometimes, and like left to my own devices, I wouldn't do that. But they also talk about like the ways in which they approach writing songs. Like Conor is a melody first person, which I was kind of shocked to learn, where Phoebe is a lyrics first person. Conor is very good at writing these kind of like character study type songs, whereas Phoebe like almost always like writes from personal experience. And they both like kind of learned from each other in like those various regards over the process of writing this record, which I found really cool. The other thing is that I like is that kind of the spark for this record. The two met kind of through a mutual friend. Apparently it was a situation where a band had fallen through playing at I think it was the Bootleg Theater in LA. The guy who booked there was a friend of Conor's, calls him up, says, hey, would you be able to do something like, play kind of a little secret show? And he was like, yeah, of course. And the next question was, okay, cool. One of my favorite songwriters, Phoebe Bridgers, is also going to play the show if that's cool. And everything kind of went from there. But there was a kind of big bill show that happened later on where Conor was covering Here Comes a Regular by the Replacements. Yeah. And that kind of like sparked a conversation between them about, loving the Replacements. And, we've kind of talked in the past about how, Conor has that connection with his brother too. But they basically go, what if we started a band that sounded like the Replacements, which is like apparently what if we started a band that sounds like X is a thing Conor does all the time. But lo and behold, this one came to fruition. Arguably,
sounds nothing like the Replacements.
Yeah, it sounds nothing like the Replacements. In one interview, Phoebe's like, well, like the Replacements don't sound like the Replacements half the time.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really neat origin story of just kind of like having this mutual interest and like actually following through on the, hey, what if we formed a band thing, which Lord knows I've pitched that many times to people and nothing has ever come of it. So I'm glad this one worked out.
It worked for us.
It worked for us.
Start a band that sounds like Mineral.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because you pitched it to me instead of me throwing it out into the void that I want to start a band that sounds like Envy. Anyway.
I think that especially talking about these two artists and their propensities for collaboration, this kind of comes at a perfect time.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned comparing this to Monsters of Folk, and Monsters of Folk is kind of collaborative in a specific way where they're all writing together, and they're all kind of bringing songs and sort of singing on each other's songs, is the impression that I get of a lot of the Monsters of Folk record. Whereas this was like truly they're writing lyrics together. And then you also look at the Mystic Valley Band album, which is a different kind of, obviously they sort of developed that record live, playing live as a band, but then other members of the band get to sing lead and write songs on that record. Like that's the only, non-covers that are written by someone else on like a Conor Oberst record, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine that those experiences led to sort of a willingness and interest in making starting another band like this, making a collaborative, like a truly collaborative record, which then I think continues through something like Five Dice, where we talked about with the Alex Orange Drink collaboration.
Yeah.
And then I didn't, for some reason, I never quite put this together. This Better Oblivion record was recorded right after the Boy Genius EP. So Phoebe Bridgers is also in like a collaborative streak at this point, where she had put out Stranger in the Alps in 2017 and then is working on Punisher right around this time too. And she talks about the sort of these collaborative projects being sort of a respite from working on Punisher, which was kind of a tough record to make, apparently.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of like the context around the album. And then in sort of late 2018, they start doing the teases, the bus stop ads, the pamphlets. This stuff is the sort of style, the advertisements, the marketing around this album, I think is really cool. And was it announced in advance, or was it just there was like a single shortly before the album came out? It was a really short rollout.
It was an incredibly short rollout. Yeah. I want to say also, on the order of like a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Right. I mean, maybe there were the like ads were out there for maybe a month. But there's the whole, they talk about this in one of the interviews where they're like, we need to have a short rollout because otherwise this is going to get lost in our other projects and it's not going to come out for 3 years and we're not going to be interested in it by that point and we'll never tour and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that, you know what? I feel like that was the move.
Yeah, it was good because and then it comes out, again, comes out early 2019. The rest of within just over a year, Down in the Bright Eyes is in full swing again, and Down in the Weeds is out, and then Punisher comes out in 2020. So yeah, like it is an interesting sort of fulcrum point in their careers, because then also Phoebe Bridgers just catapults in popularity between Boy Genius and the Punisher record.
Right.
And Bright Eyes, I think, has a moment and then kind of regresses to the mean in baseball terms.
Right.
With their next couple records. Not to say that, again, we talked a lot about them. We like those records, but they are not having Phoebe is not opening for Bright Eyes anytime soon.
No, God, no. It would be, in fact, it would be insane.
The other way around is likely. I think, we probably will not spend really any minutes of this podcast reading too much into their relationship and or friendship.
I have no interest in doing that
right.
at all.
But they seemed, to put it as short as possible, it seemed like they were on the outs for a while and are now cool again based on them performing together as recently as last year.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. Like we'll probably talk about this a little more later. Not holding out hope for another of these records, but it would be really cool if there was one.
Yeah, I guess, and to sort of to talk about the actual like publicly relevant part of their relationship, the press tour, the interviews for this record are so much fun to watch because they seem like they are having an absolute blast. They're like goofy and joking, and while also feeling like they genuinely love the songs in the album and have a lot to say about them and are excited about it, I think, which is an extension of not taking too long to release the record after they wrote it and recorded it.
Yeah, I really do think that is very much a function of that, because too much distance from it, like you kind of lose the spark. Like no matter how excited you are for it or how good it actually is, like that's just naturally going to happen as other stuff comes along. I really think having that short lead in kind of led to them just powering through this entire album cycle, just being very stoked on these songs, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it gets to live in this space between, like, truly between their other projects, not in like not like we made the Monsters of Folk record but by the time that was out there was already a Bright Eyes, or that wasn't quite how it worked, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
There was a lot going on. Right, there's plenty of moments like that in in the Bright. Well, I guess the early one is they make the Desaparecidos record and then make Lifted by the time the Desaparecidos record is out. Or, there's some timeline, wibbly wobbly timey wimey in there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, should we talk about the songs?
Let's get into it.
This album starts with "Didn't Know What I Was In For," which is both the first song on the album and the first song that they wrote together for the project. This is a pretty quiet opener. It builds a bit along the way, but it starts off very soft. It's kind of a song about, I guess, modern activism and wondering whether the things that you try to do to help people are actually doing anything at all, or if you're just making yourself feel better. What do you think of this song?
I like this song quite a bit. It's a great opener. It probably doesn't hurt that I guess this was the first song that was written for this project, which is, it's cool that the album opens with that. But yeah, like that specific like viewpoint of like going in on a song about like, what does it look like to care? What does it look like to affect change in the ways that one individual can, and like how do you feel about that? Like the examples that are kind of put forth in this song are, a cancer run, somebody who just kind of like puts it out there that like, oh yeah, I'm really worried about what's going on in the world. I think in one of the interviews, Phoebe said something along the lines of, we've all been at a party where there's 5 people standing in a circle drinking wine and talking about how they're concerned about what's going on in the world, and they're very proud of themselves for having big opinions, which is a thing that a lot of people do to some degree or another. And like they fully admit like, yeah, we're guilty of this too, but like it is still a thing that's out there and that we all need to be cognizant of if we want to actually get anything done.
Right. And I think the thing that makes this song work so well is that whether this is a Phoebe lyric or Conor lyric, like they as writers are not exempting themselves from this kind of projecting, maybe not moral superiority, but like projecting a sort of, like you said, pride at being right or having the right opinion. Because like that's the whole thing, is that like it when you feel good when you do this stuff, even if it doesn't have a profound effect on the world, or if it is just like a post you're making.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the kind of cognitive dissonance that comes with like, well, what if all it did was make me feel good? Like, what does that matter then? Versus like it's better than doing nothing, which is almost always true. Sometimes it's right. Not. Sometimes you actually do make things worse by trying to do a thing, but that you can't know that in the moment half the time.
Yeah, it's very much like an anxiety of living on the internet song, which again is like another reference in in one of the interviews where Phoebe is like, Conor doesn't read the internet and I am always on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
But do you find yourself when you're listening to this record being like, I wonder if that was a lyric that Conor originated or if that was a lyric that Phoebe originated?
I did find myself wondering that a lot. And sometimes it's more obvious than others.
Right. I would say, do you think you can tell?
Only sometimes.
Right.
I feel like
same.
I feel like they're so much on the same wavelength that it just kind of all melds together for the most part.
I mean, there's songs that can only have come from one of them, like Service Road. But
right.
I had spent a lot of this time thinking that Dylan Thomas was a Conor, a Conor song, but that I think based on the interviews, that is totally a Phoebe song.
Yeah, I would have thought the same thing, honestly.
That feels more like down the middle, and this one feels a little more down the middle too. Because, and I suspect if they're kind of writing together for the first time, that they're maybe a little more trying to write like each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
But I think
you're kind of trying to find the middle ground right away.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, but it works. I think the song is an excellent opener.
Yeah, definitely. It's an almost perfect introduction to kind of the vibe of this band, if not necessarily the sound, because like we do go places from here for sure.
Yeah. And the last line of the song, that living's just a promise that I made, is an excellent lyric.
It really is, yeah.
After that, we get Sleepwalkin', which is a song that has these very dramatic tempo changes. Even like in the intro, you hear someone yell out, "Oh, it's kind of hard to count," before they get into this. It's like they're changing the tempo or like simulating a tape slowing down or speeding up from like moment one of the song.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that they left that little snippet in there, because I have a feeling that was not like supposed to be part of the song from the outset. Maybe it was.
Yeah, it's like a live moment or whatever.
Yeah. Your drummer talks and it gets picked up by the microphone. It happens sometimes. But I do appreciate it, because like, yeah, we do get a lot of time bending in this song, and I think it serves the song pretty well as a start here.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of a song about going through the motions of a thing, but there's contrasting that musically with a thing that is always pulling you out of relaxation or sleepwalking through the song.
Yeah. This is notably also a song where like we've talked about how a majority of this record is just sung in unison, but this is a kind of a more verse trading song where the choruses are shared. But I don't think that takes away from anything, especially like kind of given, you know, the kind of solitary feeling of going through the motions in a lot of ways that this song centers around. Yeah,
well, and then they do an alternate version of it as a B-side where they swap the verses and also just completely change the arrangement too.
Right, yeah, I find that version to be very interesting, because it's almost a remix, but it's also kind of not. I think it reestablishes the song with a different feel in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it takes kind of what they were doing on Exception to the Rule, which we'll get to in a minute, and takes it to its logical extreme, just, you know, with a different song.
Yeah, exactly.
This is another song that I think ends with its best lyric, 2 songs in a row. With this, I gave what I got. It came as a shock to find out I'm fine with what I've lost. I think is a great sort of turn of phrase.
It really is, like it in a song that like has this kind of anxious feeling about, you know, about what you're missing. Like to end on that is quite a set of lines. Yeah.
Right. And then it just has this like big chunky guitar solo too. It's hard to even call it a guitar solo. But it is. It's like 3 notes. It sounds very cool. It's a great little production moment.
Yeah, there's so much fuzz on that guitar that you can't call it anything but a solo.
Yeah. After that is Dylan Thomas. This was the first single, the song that has stuck with me most over the years. I mentioned I was maybe a tad lukewarm on this album when it came out, but I was never lukewarm on this song. This is an absolute jam, almost like an anthem in kind of a weird way. But I love basically everything about this song.
It's really great. It was it's wild to me that this was the last song that was written for the record. But I guess not surprising, kind of given this is an anti-Trump jam, like unshockingly, given the lyrics. But yeah, like it's insanely catchy. Like just throughout, like it's a big time jam. Like that's why it's the single.
Yeah, and I think to me it makes sense that this was kind of the last song that was written, because this one is the one that feels the most comfortable to me with what their collaboration can be, because it's the one that feels sort of least similar to anything that either of them have done before, with maybe like one exception. But it also just feels like the perfect midpoint. Like I want more of the album to be this sort of like rousing Americana, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like when we talk about a band that started with, what if we made a band that sounds like the Replacements? Like this is almost as close as we get to that.
It is,
at least on the album. I would argue the like kind of one proper B-side we have is also in that vein.
Definitely.
But it sounds like this song like really just kind of serendipitously came to be too, because they were done writing the record with 9 songs apparently. And then
or
like
8 songs, because they didn't write one of them. Right.
Yeah. Sorry. They had 9 songs that they were ready to record.
Yes.
I I do keep forgetting that the last song is a cover, and I keep having to remind myself of that. There are some telltale signs that we'll get to, but whatever. But regardless, they had like settled on 9 songs to record, and then like this just kind of happened like a couple days before recording, and I find that really, really cool because it kind of speaks to how effortlessly they were writing together at that point.
Yeah. A couple lyrics I want to call out in this song. I love, you mentioned the political aspects of the song. I love the Talking Heads are saying the king is only playing a game of 4-dimensional chess, which is such a, like, I've spent too much time on political Twitter lyric. Which, certainly I was doing at that time.
Who among us wasn't at that point in our lives?
Yeah. I love this, I guess it's the bridge or sort of the end of the bridge where Phoebe is sort of has this sort of self-referential lyric. They say you got to fake it till you make it, at least until you make it. That goes to just a kid in a sheet, a reference to like her album covers and sort of visual aesthetic of wearing these ghost or skeleton costumes.
Yeah, I really like that call out. That's always stood out to me.
Yeah, and then in the last chorus, the I'm taking a shower at the Bates Motel is kind of the ultimate Phoebe Bridgers lyric, I think. I love that line so much.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to make a reference like that in a song at some point?
Yeah, but it's a great sort of, I mean, it's obviously it's the reference, but it's also just a great way to bring in sort of the fear of the fear and the anxiety of the political situation at the time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and that tumbles right into the last couple lines. I'm getting greedy with this private hell. I'll go it alone, but it's just as well. Which like really caps off the song. Yeah,
you almost like revel in the individualism, or even if community would be better. It's kind of how I read those lyrics.
Yeah, and like I'm sure it is intentional and not lost on them that like individualism is a lot of what got us into this fucking mess in the first place. So like it's a really it once again kind of comes back to the like, yeah, these are things that we are in fact guilty of, even if they are things that we hate.
I want to say one more thing about the end of the song. There's a joke that they make in one of the interviews about how, and this was kind of a joke that was made in the Monsters of Folk interviews too, whereas that Conor is like incapable of singing harmony because he just spent his entire life, being a solo artist and fronting his own bands and stuff like that. And he does it at those last couple lines, and it's really apparent in the live performances, although you can hear it on the record too. And once I read that interview, I was like, oh yeah, it stood out to me so much that particular moment at the end of Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, definitely. We should touch on the music video too real quick before we move on, which is wild. Like it, I mean, it's in the aesthetic of the project in general, with, given that it was introduced via these kind of pseudo religious appearing pamphlets that were getting sent around. And in fact, the video starts off with Conor and Phoebe arriving at this mansion with one of those pamphlets in hand to play to what I assume are a bunch of rich older people who are wearing blindfolds and or VR headsets throughout their stay.
Then we've got Service Road, which is a sort of quieter song with acoustic guitar and kind of rumbling percussion. This is so obviously a Conor song. I mean, this is very much one about his brother who had died, a couple of years before, or a year or two before recording this. Yeah. And this is a real raw, emotional, and I think really touching song, just very no nonsense about his feelings about his brother and himself, and all this anger that grief can make you feel, and you want to direct it at the person who died, and you also want to direct it at yourself. And it's the way it sort of unpacks that or just expresses it, I think is really phenomenal.
Yeah, and it also it has this like kind of palpable disdain for the kind of AA 12-step program that like clearly failed his brother, which I like. Sometimes you'll get a reference to that in a song, and it just kind of like it almost comes off as passe often, but like just the amount that it is leaned into in the like first verse and chorus of the song is like it feels so raw and emotional in a way that like it talking about that kind of thing often doesn't.
Yeah. I don't know. Every image in this song is I don't even know what to say about it. I think it's for reasons that I don't really want to get into on this. It is. I just find it very affecting.
Yeah, no, like I wholeheartedly agree. It is. Sorry, one of my cats just sneezed, and it was kind of funny. But,
good timing. Was it?
Yeah, great timing. No, because I'm gonna elaborate on that. I'm not gonna elaborate on it too much. It's just this song. This song feels hopeless in a lot of ways, and it like really manifests that hopelessness, especially in that last or in the outro that just ends with just go until you feel different. Like I literally don't know what else to do except relinquish like whatever will be, which is a thing that comes up later in the album actually. And like, yeah, it's gutting. It's just a fucking gutting song.
The outro is interesting because so much of Conor's writing historically and after this album is about these ideas of circularity and death and rebirth and cycles. And this is like a sort of a contrast to that, because it's like how you deal with grief in this case is there's no sense of cycle here. There's just endless white snow, endless roads, you just travel them, yeah, like I said, until you feel different, which is there's no end in sight there when you're deep in grief.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really incredible song.
Yeah, really.
Then after that, you get Exception to the Rule, which is the most different song on the album, and I think from either of their primary projects.
Definitely,
this is driven by this sort of pulsing synth that goes throughout the entire song. I don't think there's any guitar in the song at all, but it's still sort of contrasted with these laid back vocals, but it's also very, very catchy. What do you think of this one?
The chorus on this song is, I think, the catchiest set of lyrics paired with melodies on this whole album. Like it's one that gets stuck in my head just kind of offhand often. I do get a what if Digital Ash but more upbeat vibe from this, which is probably recency bias at this point, but it does. The arrangement itself feels like it is kind of born out of that area of Conor's musical history.
Yeah, I mean that's, you're not alone in thinking, using that as a reference point. It's in some of the features and the writing about this record too. I totally agree. Although it is just a more even in its sort of synthesizer-ness, it's more upbeat than anything on Digital Ash, I think.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Sort of thematically, I guess it is a song about whether you should or should want to sort of live a quote unquote normal life, is kind of how I read it. Or if, being a musician, I guess in their case, or someone who is sort of outside of the typical, college, house, career, marriage, job, whatever life track is, how you fit into the world when you don't want those things.
Yeah. And then kind of the tension that occurs between you and, well, not everybody else in the world, but a lot of other people in the world, friends, loved ones. We get to that bridge where we, end with, because I'm not listening because I know where that talk goes.
Yeah. I like this song a ton. I'm glad that it is they don't spend too much of the album in this style.
I think it's good that it's a one-off standout, I think, for sure.
Yeah, but it is a good one. After that is Chesapeake, which is another kind of mostly acoustic song. This is one of the songs that Christian Lee Hutson contributed to as a writer, and I mean he played in the band on this tour, I think, and has been is very involved in Better Oblivion overall, and also he opened for Bright Eyes when we saw them at the Chicago Theater, which was cool.
Yeah,
so he's very much in the Conor Oberst, Phoebe Bridgers circles, and this song, as well as another one later on the album, feels very much, you can hear his guitar style, his writing style all over it, but this song is, I guess, a song largely about the music industry and about how it feels to be a kid discovering music, and then how it feels to be a fading, aging rock star, kind of at the same time. Do you like this one?
I love this one. This has one of my favorite lines on the whole album, which is that my hero plays for no one in a parking lot. There is a Better Oblivion Community Center Facebook group that is just called that, and I'm like, oh, cool, you picked the best one. But yeah, I kind of love the story behind this this song too, where I guess Christian and Phoebe were just like kind of lamenting the biz, as it were, and Conor kind of stumbled in, apparently like very high on mushrooms, which he looks directly at the camera during one of the interviews and says, "It was a special occasion. This doesn't happen often," and then moves on. But I guess like he kind of sat down, joined the conversation, and then just like kind of started writing the lyrics to this song, which is, it seems like a lot of these songs kind of came out of like, there was a casual conversation happening, and then like the spark of an idea happened, and then writing just kind of started from there. But this is like maybe one of the more notable ones on that front.
Yeah, because we are of the age we are and in the scene that we are, which is not too dissimilar from Phoebe Bridgers herself, My Hero Plays to No One in a Parking Lot feels like such a Warped Tour thing.
Oh my God, yeah. Hard agree.
Seen my heroes play to no one in a parking lot at Warped Tour and in other places, but that's what that lyric evoked there specifically for me.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And when kind of asked about this, like was there someone specific you were thinking of? Both of them are like, a lot of people. This happens all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's the thing is when you love music and indie music like we all do. You have many, I have many, I'm sure Phoebe and Conor have even more artists that they think deserve to have been the biggest band in the world and just never got their break, never were able to get it together, whatever it was. I mean, I've literally just the other day was listening to demos of a band that I was friends with in high school who should have been, Manchester Orchestra big, and they just, they broke up at the end of high school, and maybe I have some bias there because we played shows together and I was friends with them a little bit and stuff like that. But like, I could point to all these bands that really, because the scene wasn't there or they weren't able to tour or whatever it was. So it's just obvious hearing like a song like this that Conor and Phoebe have the same feelings and kind of look at music in the same way, look at the industry in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, the crux of a lot of these, songs, and the thing that like Phoebe and Conor are both acutely aware of is like your circumstances are going to dictate kind of where you end up in life in a lot of cases, and this is no exception to that. Like a lot of mediocre people get big in music because they knew the right people or were born in the right city or had the right amount of money or whatever, and like that's something to lament for sure, and it's, I think, done very well here.
Yeah, and then as you get to the end of the song, you get these ideas of like you stand on the corner and hope you get recognized, and this idea that like if you are one of these people who is so in it, then like you there's a part of you that never stops believing you still have a shot.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I get about the final stanza too. This I was all covered in sound when you asked me to turn it down. I didn't even think it was loud. Like this idea that you might not even realize how consumed you are by this idea that you might still have a shot.
Yeah. Well, and then the very last line, "Can you hear it now?" Like, how is this not apparent to you? How is this not apparent to everybody else?
Yeah, and the way that that line sort of lingers out over this like synth that just kind of fades to the end of the song, it's a very effective production.
Yeah. Do you think there are many more songs that make reference to both the Replacements and Guns N' Roses? Like enough to make a playlist?
I mean, those bands are intertextual in their own way. That's Tommy Stinson playing in both of them. So like,
true.
It's, I mean, not like the Sweet Child of Mine era of Guns N' Roses, but like,
right.
Current. So, I mean, I'm sure that was an intentional tie-in there.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely sure that was.
Good bands, both of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll go with yeah.
I have no qualms whatsoever about saying that I love those the big Guns N' Roses records, and maybe not anything after the like two that matter, but
yeah, no, that's kind of where I'm at with them too. So you're in good company here.
Duff McKagan, huge influence on me as a bassist.
Valid.
Next up is My City, probably the least standout song on the album to me. I don't know that I really have a ton to say about it. The song, what do you think of it?
That I actually really like this song. I love that main guitar riff, the kind of jaunty. I'm not going to try to sing it. If you're listening to this, you've listened to this song. You know what the riff sounds like.
Yeah, they do it on the Tiny Desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have like a lot of holistic thoughts about this song, but like there's a bunch of like individual things that I like about this. I really love the couplet, "This town is a monolith, this town is a crowded movie." Just the way that they sing those lines really gets to me. But the other things that I really like are there's this kind of like big, like bold moments in the bridge, the looking bad like those Vegas odds, wear a smile like it's camouflage, and then the kind of similarly tuned outro I think are really cool. Also, the amount of time they spend on the last syllable of ambulance the last time they say it is wild.
That little outro bit is so good. It really is. It swells up, and it's from both like an arrangement, production, and also mix, and even like mastering standpoint. Is like the loudest, most like crushing moment on the album. It's quite well done. Yeah, for sure. To be clear, I totally understand why this is like not a big standout in the kind of oeuvre of this entire album. But I think there's still a lot to appreciate about it. Oh, for sure. After that is Forest Lawn, another kind of acoustic one with light percussion. Also another Christian Lee Hutson collaboration, which again, like you can tell, his style is all over this song. The song kind of about looking back on an old relationship. I always read this as being about after the person has died, because I take the "since you went underground" thing literally. Yeah. But I guess it doesn't have to be. It is just sort of looking back on how things have changed in that relationship and sort of lamenting it and also looking back on it with a little bit of like melancholy nostalgia. Yeah. I mean, I had also always read it as, you know, underground being very literal, but yeah, like kind of coming back to it, I'm like, I can absolutely see it both ways at this point. Yeah, I mean, well, and also the sort of climax of the song builds to is you used to say you wanted to end up in Forest Lawn, which is a funeral, or is a cemetery. Like it's a right. The song builds to an idea about death either way. Yeah, for sure, and you know, just. I don't know that it makes the song any less effective to look at it either way, honestly. No, it doesn't, because I don't get the impression that anything is going to change about these two characters. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that there's like a happy resolution, they find each other again version of this song. Right, yeah. And kind of coming back to the kind of departure that we'd taken from Conor's writing about like the cyclical nature of life and death. I do find it very interesting that we get in this song, the first line is also the last line. Which kind of leans into that idea a little bit. But like you said, it doesn't, regardless of what circumstances these two characters are in, nothing's going to change. Things are going to continue being the way they are, which kind of lends to that. The song that this reminds me most of, and this is one where I truly don't know whether this is sort of a Phoebe originated lyric or a Conor originated lyric. I feel like it could go either way. But the song that it reminds me most of is Stairwell Song. In sort of its perspective and kind of the person that the song is describing feel very similar. I don't say that they're about the same person, but you know, the ideas and the sort of perspective of the song feel similar to me. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's also, I mean, the used to sing with a straight face, these like mega hit pop songs. It's right, this like, again, it's sort of a loss of innocence, which ties into some of the political themes of the album, and it adds just more layers thematically that I really like. Yeah, for sure. I also love that specifically "My Heart Will Go On" is called out. Yeah. It's a great one. It really is. Next up is Big Black Heart. the penultimate song on the album, a song that notably gives the members of Tiger's Jaw writing credit because Phoebe apparently accidentally ripped off the guitar riff from I Saw the Wolf, which you can kind of hear.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yep, that's what it is. It's
that
like it's a Taylor Swift on the Olivia Rodrigo album situation.
Yep, that checks out.
This is a cool song. It's it's sort of a quiet start and then builds to this huge fuzzy riff at the end. After this, I guess I Thought You Could Stop the World, which is a great sort of image to get in. To then have this almost this. Phoebe mentions in one of the interviews that Julian Baker texted her and was like, "I'm ready to mosh to this song."
I had that noted as a good pull quote too. I love that. I would also like to mosh to this song. Unfortunately, I was upstairs at Lincoln Hall for most of this show.
Oh, you can mosh in the balcony if you try hard enough.
Yeah, but you have to have other willing participants, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh no, I'm well aware that you can mosh on any level of any venue, as evidenced by the Riv and that Wonder Years show we went to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this song absolutely rips. It is funny that she accidentally ripped off Tiger's Jaw, because my first note is, man, this is a real Phoebe-ass riff to start off this song.
It is, and I guess she just internalized a lot of Tiger's Jaw.
And you know what? So should we all.
Yeah. I went back and listened to some of that album today. I have a long-standing weird take on Tiger's Jaw is that they didn't get good until their like fourth album. But I think the Two Worlds, the title track from that record, is pretty good.
It is pretty good, and I might agree with you on that take.
The last Tiger's Jaw record is so good.
It really is. Their last few have just been intensely good, and I guess there's a new one coming. So,
oh, good.
I saw something leaked. I don't know if anybody's heard any audio yet, though.
Okay, I got to look into that. The more that they have started to sound like The Anniversary over the years, the better. The more I've liked them.
God, that's a band I need to revisit because I haven't listened to them in a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Anything else on Big Black Heart?
I mostly just that I love how intense the outro of this song is. Just like so much feedback. The vocals are just like crushing. It's just this could be a closer, honestly. Like I would be okay if the album ended here. But I do appreciate Dominoes, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. At least like sonically, I don't know if lyrically this feels like the right place to end the album on.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah, but I mean, like other albums that end on a cover, of which I can think of a couple off the top of my head, having the cover there as like a both sort of story denouement or addendum, but also feeling like thematically where you need to have to close the record is kind of an interesting move. I mean, the first Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties album is the one that sticks out to me that closes with a Mountain Goats cover. That's
right. Yeah, I forgot that closes with that.
Was there an album that we talked about on this podcast that does like a similar thing?
Technically, RPM does, if we're counting secret tracks.
It doesn't. That's a bone. That's a hidden track. That's
It's an egregious song, cover, though. Yeah, it's a great cover. I love it. It's just so out of left field.
Yeah. But Dominoes. This is a cover of a song by Taylor Hollingsworth, who played guitar in the Mystic Valley band with Conor. This is a song that is just, as clearly as it can be about death, about the acceptance or refusal to accept death, and thinking about, the afterlife and how you've lived. And in that way, it does tie up a lot of the sort of anxieties and, themes that have been running through the album. But you said you had some thoughts on the lyrics to the song.
I mean, not anything in particular, except that like this fits so well that I did not realize it was a cover for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also does contain the like kind of classic Bright Eyes. We do some musical painting here when like I'm talking to strangers on a foreign phone, you get phone noises, the birds that appear after singing birds, heartbeat drums after Feel My Heartbeat. But that's all present on the original song, which I just listened to for the first time yesterday. So in a lot of ways, it's a very straightforward cover, but it fits really well on this album, and I think really does make for a fitting closer, to your point.
Yeah, I think Conor is, especially, we talked about this obviously with a lot of the companion EPs, and even the Kids Table EP. I think he's good at picking a cover that enhances the themes of an album and isn't like a super well-known song or something like that. Like he's covering his friends, or he's covering, artists that he thinks should have their songs heard more.
Yeah, definitely.
But so it's an interesting place to end the record. The last lyrics I find pretty affecting. If you're not feeling ready, there's always tomorrow, which is both like a sort of hopeful way to look at life, but also is just not true, because there's no promise. Like you might die at any time, and so if you don't feel like you have lived the life you wanted to, or are the kind of the person you want to be, then like you have to start doing something about that now. Like there's not always tomorrow.
Well, and that is an easy attitude to carry forward indefinitely, which will eventually lead to you tumbling into oblivion, as it were, and there not being a tomorrow. So like, it's a hell of a line to end this album on.
Yeah. And yes, that is the end of the album. There are just a couple of other songs, adjacent to this record. There is Symposium Message, which is more of a promotional track. It just seems like the audio from like a trailer or something. It's just the guitar from Forest Lawn with like a chopped up voice saying the band name.
Yeah, it took me a while to realize that they were just saying the band name the entire time.
All 45 seconds of the song.
It's absolutely insane to me that is just available to stream on streaming services. Like,
it's cool. Put everything out there.
Yeah, put everything out there.
Pennies.
Yeah.
The more significant B-sides are a 7-inch that has the Daydreamin' version of Sleepwalkin' that we talked a little bit about, that's more in the style of Exception to the Rule. And then a song that was written while on tour based on what the lyrics are, and called Little Trouble, that was produced by Mike Mogus. So bringing in, another obviously Bright Eyes person into the fold. This is a cool song. Very different than anything else on the record. I think it's a pretty fast, like kind of thumping, mostly tom driven drum beat, and just is like it just feels a little more aggressive maybe than a lot of the record.
When I mentioned that there was a song that sounded maybe a little more like the Replacements than anything else here, it was this one that I was referring to. I'm gonna say one more time about a Conor Oberst song. This song is rollicking, and I love it.
You don't think there's anything rollicking on the Christmas album that we haven't talked about yet?
Those are not Conor songs. They are all traditional Christmas songs, if I remember correctly.
But I like this one a lot. The lyric I was referencing is that a lot of this song, the back half in particular, feels like it's about the crazy like college admissions SAT scamming scandal that was breaking right around the time that they started playing the song live.
Right, yeah, because that was incredibly timely, because that happened in like a couple months after the record came out. I want to say like March of that year.
Yeah. And again, this is another one where like I don't really know which one of them originated these lyrics, but Phoebe talks in one of the interviews about being the kind of person who she'll sit and watch TV and she'll just kind of write about what's on TV. And this feels like a very, this is a crazy thing that's in the news, and so I'm thinking about it, so I'm going to write about it.
I like that she also talks about how she feels like she can't watch like serialized television at the same time as other people, because otherwise they'll know.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
This is a good B-side. Do you have the 7-inch?
I don't know that I do. I'd have to double check. But I'm pretty sure I don't, because I'm really bad with buying 7-inches because I never put them on the turntable.
Oh, I mean, same. If Little Trouble is the last Better Oblivion song we get, I think it's a good little bonus to go out on.
Yeah.
I do genuinely hope we get another collaboration with Conor and Phoebe at some point in the future. Like we were saying before, it doesn't seem likely.
But
I hope it happens. I mean, I contend that I think there'll be another Boy Genius record. I think that, if they get to a point in their careers, especially with the way Phoebe talked about, these collaborations being a way to get into a different headspace, to escape from sort of the stress of or the pressure of a solo record, I could see more stuff like this happening in the future, and I hope it does. I think these songs are really great.
I would really love that, selfishly or otherwise. It seems like this record was a really great experience for like the process of making this record and touring on it was a really great experience for both of them. And again, not trying to speculate too hard on anything that happened in the interim, but again, it seems like they're cool again, and depending on the level of personal shit that happened, maybe that's something that can be put in the past. Maybe it's not. But I would love to see another record from them. And if I don't, that's okay too, because this is like kind of a perfect little capsule in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Do you have a random recommendation for this week?
I realized about halfway through the pod that I didn't have anything on hand just yet. But I think I do want to recommend something that I actually need to return to myself. And this is maybe not going to be that much of a recommendation for most people, because I'm sure a lot of people have heard it. I'm gonna just go ahead and recommend the new Rosalia album that came out, I believe, a couple weeks ago at this point, called Lux. Rosalia is a incredible musician who came to massive popularity with her most recent album before this one, called Moto Mommy, which was kind of a turn in her career from like kind of making this more like classical, sometimes borderline experimental leaning stuff. She's an incredible like lyricist and vocalist, has these really great arrangement chops, but also can write a hell of a pop song. And that's kind of where Moto Mommy came from and like kind of launched her into the stratosphere in terms of popularity. Lux is basically her saying, well, I made a lot of money now. What if I went back to doing the thing that I originally wanted to do? And it's just got these big blown out orchestral arrangements, all sorts of weird stuff going on, some really cool features from some really awesome contemporaries of hers. And yeah, I gave it a casual listen last week. Really liked it. Really want to sit down with that one. So this is as much a reminder to me as to you. Go listen to Rosalia's Lux if you haven't. Or if you have.
I just added this to my to listen list today when I saw it was on a bunch of end of the year lists that have been coming out.
Sick. Yeah, what do you got?
I'm going to recommend a TV show. This TV show is called Pluribus. It is on Apple TV. It is from Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, X-Files writer, guy whose shows you probably watched at some point in the course of your life if you're a TV person. The show is about a woman played by Rhea Seehorn from Better Call Saul. She plays a romantasy writer who is one of only 12 people in the world who is not consumed by an alien hive mind. And she is miserable and trying to fight back against the hive mind in any way that she can. And it's just a wonderful show about control and fate and whether what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be conscious? It's both philosophical and in typical Vince Gilligan fashion. It's funny and it's weird and absurd, and it's one of the best things I've seen on TV in a long, long time.
Every single time I hear something about this show, it makes me think that it is probably going to be the thing that tips me into finally paying for Apple TV Plus. I've been avoiding it for a very long time, but this sounds pretty fucking stellar. So hell yeah, sounds great.
Apple TV is secretly the best streaming service. They have an actually like incredible lineup of shows.
Kind of sounds like it.
All right. We will be back next week talking about our final Conor Oberst thing for the series. Obviously, we skipped a bunch of stuff along the way. Desparecido, some solo records, but maybe we'll come back to those sometime in the future of this podcast. For now, we're going to end the Bright Eyes era of our show with the Christmas album, because it is now December and we can legally listen to Christmas music. Mm-hmm. And In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod, find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com, and send us emails at noisefloorpodcast@gmail.com, and we will see you next week.
We'll see you next week.